Hello, everyone. Well, are we being poisoned by our environment? Are we destroying ourselves? Of course. We polluted the waters, we polluted the skies, we polluted the soil. And this has put a lot of scare into a lot of people about the health of the people. This is combined with not just nuclear waste and oil waste and plastics, but all the different types of, land rape that are going on around the world. But I'm going to focus here directly on health issues and how much we are making ourselves sick. It's we're not only making ourselves sick through what we eat, because we make a decision, a conscious decision to eat what we eat. And I've heard the argument that, well, I can't afford to eat good food, it's too much money, yada yada. And usually, most of the time, it's unless you live in the ghetto and you're on welfare and you don't have any, you actually can't afford it. Most people make decisions to buy other things. In other words, a person has their habits. For example, if a cigarette smoker says, I can't afford to eat healthy, it's just a cop-out. And I know that because I've been that person. So, eating healthy is the first step towards feeling better when we want to, as far as society tells us, you eat better and you'll be healthier. And there seems to be, now there's a big movement towards the mental state as being the most important thing. That the mental state is more important than what you're eating. I'm not a big eater, but I'm happy and I'm content and I'm healthy. And I know people who eat and never feel satisfied because some people use it to fill a void, just like a drug. But I'm not talking about food here specifically. I'm just talking about everything that we consume. We choose to poison ourselves with certain things. We eat things that we know we shouldn't. And I think most of us do it. Now, I'm sure there are a few of you out there who are just full-on organic eaters, and I what's the word I'm looking for? Honor you, I guess. I think that's a great thing to be able to do. It's very difficult for me, especially with the family, and kids that won't eat, everything you put in front of them, and living in a society that's constantly full of foods that we really shouldn't eat. But I've been wondering for a long time how much we worry ourselves over whether we're dying from the foods that we're eating. For example, let's say that you're eating GMO corn and you're telling yourself that you're being harmed by that GMO corn. If you're telling yourselves and you're telling your body that you're being harmed, then you are. And this is really just scientific fact. There's no particular studies, I guess, that I could refer you to prove this. But there's plenty of evidence to show that how placebo effect works and how the mental aspect of a person, the mental belief that a medicine will work, may make even the sugar pill work for a condition that otherwise may not even have a cure. And how people have had some amazing results through using their minds. And at the same time, there's a lot of literature to show that, for example, the person who dies right after their husband dies, the next day or the next week, or their wife dies, they die within a certain amount of time of each other because they just give up. What this shows me is that a person they can be so devastated that they literally stop their own heart. And I've heard people saying, I'll die tomorrow, or I know when I'm going to die, and they do. People are aware of that. They can control it to an extent when they decide to die. Some people will hang on forever, when they're in a horrible condition. So my point with that is that with medicine it's the same way. If you believe that a medicine's harming you, if you believe that something is a danger to you, then it is. And let's extend this for a minute to the environment. A couple of years back, I heard a lot of talk about how Fukushima was going to be the end of the planet. And I remember having several discussions with people to say, look, calm down. It's a horrible disaster. The long-term repercussions of Fukushima will be disastrous. The people that live there will be suffering for generations to come. But when you start telling people that the radiation is entering the atmosphere I've heard people say that the West Coast is dying. I heard one person argue with me. They said, I heard the West Coast, all the trees are dying and the animals are dying. And I made my own video. I said, here we are out in my backyard. There's the birds chirping. The frogs are out. And amphibians are the first to react to these types of things usually. It doesn't mean that we're not in danger. It means that we're not in imminent danger of death. But everything that happens on the news gets people to think that we're in imminent danger. Somebody afraid of an escaped convict, even when they live in a completely different state, just because it was on the news and they were told to be afraid of it. And it is a manufactured fear. And it's one that I bought out of completely. I guess in the meantime I had to cast aside a lot of the things that used to concern me. And they still concern me, they just don't worry me anymore. Things like, world domination and the bankers and the rape of the rainforest and, the destruction of nearly everything that we hold dear in this planet. And so I take my fight to the front lines on those particular situations, but I don't sit and worry about dying or radiation poisoning. And I started to wonder how many people are making themselves sick off of thinking that they're sick. And I would imagine that the number is astounding. I believe that society can be sick as a whole. And if enough people are mentally ill, it will make that the dominant feature of the species. I have my own theories on, how evolution works with blueprints, waves, energy fields. I guess it would be right in line with Rupert Sheldrake's idea on the morphogenic field, that things follow a certain pattern. And not that I agree with Sheldrake 100%, but that's pretty much the same type of theory that I have. And nobody can tell me I'm wrong, and nobody can tell me I'm right. It's just one of those things that we feel or don't feel. And I feel that there is a field out there. I feel the field. I feel this energy that when I have a positive intent on what I'm eating and how I want to feel, I'll get that feeling. And more often than not, if I think I'm going to have a bad day, I have a bad day. If I think I'm going to eat something and feel crappy, I feel crappy. People have created an aversion to eating meat. Let's say they eat meat one time and get sick. And every time they eat meat after that, they get sick because their mind has been trained to believe that that makes them sick. The mind is an amazing thing, and it's very pliable. And there's a term called neuroplasticity, which usually applies to hobbies, jobs, things that you do, or belief systems, to where they say neurons that fire together, wire together, and it becomes a permanent pathway within your brain, if so to speak, to where, let's say if you're a Christian, that every time you see something it might be Jesus. If you are if you've been playing a lot of video games for 2 weeks, everything you see might be a Zelda, or whatever video game. Zelda, of course, that's what I come up with. I sat and played a game called when it first came out, it was like a zombie video game. They made movies about Resident Evil. My friend and I sat and played it for like 2 weeks, until we beat it. And then I went out in the world and walked around. That was my first time realizing that my brain was starting to see like zombies and trap doors and stuff in things in the world. I mean, that stupid little video game moment was a revelation to me. I think I was about 20. And I said, this is what happens when people sit in their basements and play too many video games, or get too delusional, or read too many books. And of course this was before the internet was a major player. And today I see it tenfold, that the people on the internet are creating these little groups of fear-based ideas, and they're thriving on it. They're just sucking that energy of fear, but they're not realizing that it's costing them in the long run. Those butterflies in the stomach, and that intensity and that anger that comes out when you feel ill towards your fellow man in the world around you because you feel like you're being wronged, that manifests itself in your health. So I guess what I'm saying in this video is don't dwell on the negative. Be aware of it and deal with it. Be rational about it. But don't let it overwhelm you, because the internet's an easy place to get overwhelmed with, everything you could possibly fear. And I'd like to say that everything's okay, you know, and everyone's okay, and there's no major problems. I do speak out on a lot of these issues, but and I do get angry, you know, when I watch a show and I see somebody beaten, or, you know, it's just, you know, the emotion is there, but just control it so we can be healthier people. In other words, I guess I'm saying, use your head, you know, think good thoughts. Think good thoughts. It's that easy. Sounds cheesy, and it is. It's easy and it's cheesy, but it works. And just don't let yourself get so suckered that you're out of balance and you don't realize what's really going on. So that's my take on truth and reality and fear, you know. Just remember that we all have our own little part to play. And when you start to see people as all one, it just changes everything.